Man, look, y'all. So this is crazy. So it's crazy because this what I'm finna talk about today. Honestly, I didn't. It's so good how God works because I knew I wanted to record a video today, but I didn't know what I was gonna talk about. And as I'm driving to my small group tonight, my young adults group, we talk, college young adult group, we talk about, different subjects for the week, at church. And I'm driving there and I'm thinking on, as I'm driving there, it just hits me like endurance, right? It just hits me on endurance. And I was having like a word, like God gave me a word, right? God gave me a word, and as I'm driving there, I just like, I'm gonna stash this away. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'll talk about it tonight in this video. But then as I get to a small group, the thing that we're talking about, like the subject, is commitment, right? Now keep in mind, I just had a thought on endurance, right? And the subject, the word for today was commitment, and we talked about around that in different stories in the Bible. Commitment, and like how do we commit in areas in our life where we need to commit, and where do we struggle with commitment, right? And I had told him, I told him, and I was like, the problem with commitment is lack of endurance, and that's the word that I had from God, and I had shared that. I shared that with them, and I'm like, right? Because somebody made a point today. Somebody was like, man, like, somebody made a point because and their issues with commitment because they have a problem with committing because with their jobs in the job area, because they was like, look, I've quit like 3 jobs, like I had so many jobs in my time, and I have a problem with committing to something. And I was like, man, like that example right there brings me to the word that I had in the car. We have a problem with committing to things because of our inability to have endurance. We're as a people, we have a problem with enduring things, right? And the Bible talks about long suffering, right? And that we must endure, right? And basically, like, we must persevere as Christians. We must persevere at things, right? Because truthfully, when we want to commit to something, right? Whether that is a job, right? Whether that's a relationship, whether that's a friendship, all things that we commit, all things have its hard times, right? Like nothing in life that's worth having is easy. That's just the truth of the matter, right? Whether you want to be the president of the United States, whether you want to be an astronaut someday, whether you want to be a singer, whether you want to be a pastor, whether you want to be a great teacher, whether you want to be a police, whatever profession you go in, truth be told, or whether you want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, like whatever that is, like if that's worth having, right? If that's not something that's easily obtainable, like if you have goals that can't know anybody just do, right? Truth be told, it's not going to be easy, right? And it might not come overnight. And like, that's the truth of the matter, right? All good things, like if something's anything that's worth having, it requires some work, or it's going to have its hard times. Whether you aim to be married someday, have a great marriage. In order to have a great marriage, like that requires some work, right? And it's going to require hard times. And what makes it great is the fact that like you guys can endure hard times. That's what makes it a great marriage, not the good times, right? It's the hard times. And it hit me like everybody wants to commit to something, right? But it's our inability to endure the hard times, right? Like you gotta endure the hard times, man. Like it's the hard times that make you, right? And the word that I got in the car was the simple fact of how we need to be able to endure things. Like Joseph, man, like God told Joseph way earlier in his life that he was going to reign over all of his brothers. He told him way earlier in his life that he's going to reign over all of his brothers. And it wasn't until he was a grown man until it finally happened, right? So it was from in his younger years till he was a grown man, right? Until this finally happened. So, and there was a lot that happened in between in that, right? Like he endured a lot to go through that, right? And I'm saying that to say, God tells all of us things, right? And God has plans for all of us, right? Whatever that plan may be, God has plans for all of us. God might have told you, you might have got a vision from God or a dream from God, but God might have placed something in your heart to do something someday, right? But the truth of the matter is, in order to get there, like God's plan, or like whatever our plans, it's not just like an easy straight shot, like a smooth from point A to point B. No, it's like from point A to like all this twists and turns and valleys and roadblocks, then get to point B. Like, and that's the truth of the matter. In order for us to get there, and I think the difference between people who, those of us who reach our goal and becoming the person we want to be someday, or to live in that, is the ability to endure. Like, we must be able to persevere. And I think the reason why a lot of us don't get to where we want to get, because we're not persevering. Like, you got to be able to endure. And I think that endurance is something that we can pray for. Like, right? Like, the ability to endure, like, enduring hard things, enduring hard seasons, right? And being patient for things, right? Is a hard thing. And I'm not even just saying, and not even thinking where we want to be in life, right? Even getting through a rough season. Like, if you're going through a rough season, or you're depressed, or you're down, or you're facing anxiety, or you lost a loved one, like, or you're just chaos in your life. In order to get through that, right? In order to get through that, you have to be able to endure. And endurance is something that we must pray for, right? Like, we must pray for the ability to endure. Like, you gotta want that. You gotta pray for that. And also, in order to endure that, you gotta walk with God, right? Because in order to receive endurance, you need to be walking within God, because He will give us endurance. Because we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us, right? So to be able to endure things, you gotta be strong. And to be strong, you gotta walk with Christ, because we're not strong enough on our human bodies, right? Like, God created us, and God said, look, I'm your creator. And to be honest, God knows we're not strong enough. He created us, but He said, you're strong enough in me, right? Like, me in you, you're strong enough. I created you, but you're strong enough when you depend on me. Right? And God's very intentional, right? Because if we could do all things, right? Because if we could walk these battles, we can walk these battles on our own, right? If we can endure hard times on our own power, there's no need for God. There's no need for God. And God's so intentional, because we must depend on Him for endurance. Like, we must rely on Him for the strength. Like, we gotta be intertwined with God, because if we try to detach from God and try to walk those hard seasons all by ourselves, we won't be able to do it. Like, we can't make it, right? But it's when we depend on God, and that's all God really wants from us, is relationship, right? And He's so intentional, He's so good, and that just hit me. He's so good, because once we rely on God, there's nothing that we can't do. There's nothing that we can't do. Like the scripture says, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, right? We can do all things. Like, there's nothing you can't. There is nothing you can't do. There's nothing that's too big for you. There's no season that's too hard for you. And I don't care how hard it looks. And I don't care how much you wake up every day and question, like, man, this is too much for me to bear. No, it is not. It is if you do it by yourself. No. But if every day you pray, and if every day you pray and you grow closer to God every single day, if you prioritize God, if you prioritize your relationship with God over all things in your life, He will give you strength and endurance, because He's your Father. He knows your issues. And what I'm saying is, you must be able to endure, to get through life, or to get to wherever you want to be, whatever you want in life, whatever you desire. Anything that you desire from God will require endurance and His strength. And in order to obtain that endurance and strength, you must have a relationship with Him. I mean, you must have a relationship with Him. And that's every day. That's every day of getting your word. That's every day of applying that word. That's every day of praying. That's every day of talking to Him. That's every day of casting your cares on Him. That's every day of making your decisions based on what He wants you to do. That's every day every day I'm doing something to talk to God. I'm not dedicating 12 hours to talk to God, but He's the center of all my life. He's the center of all my things that I do. Like, my whole life is centered and gravitated around God, because I know anything that I want to accomplish, anything I want to do, is going to require some endurance, because life is hard and I can't control nothing that goes on in life. And the only way I'm gonna get through this life, and the way that I want to get through this life, I'm gonna need endurance. And the only way I'm gonna get endurance is if I rely and depend daily on the one who strengthens me. Man, I love y'all. I'm signing out. Peace.